Hello, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome back. Today I worked on an amazing portrait. I actually really like the way it turned out, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. My wonderful, ancient little Italian grandmother recently showed me a lot of amazing old photos that she took in 1956 on a trip with her belated spouse in Rome and parts of Ireland. She is, almost all of her Italian family is from and still resides in Rome, but her husband, Ralph, was from County Cork area in Ireland from his mother's side, and his father's side was Czechoslovakian. Don't know a ton about his father's side of the family, but in 1956, my grandmother and grandpa traveled to meet all of her relatives and first cousins, which she, of course, already knew really well, but he had never met in Rome. And then they made a detour and traveled to Ireland and got to see some of the places he is pretty sure his mother and grandmother were from. So that's cool. And one of these old photos, actually a couple of them, but the one I used today, I just found really cute and, I don't know, very 50s and 60s-ish in the style and the pose. And neither of them were very smiley people in photos. They both hated photos, which I think is really funny because every single one of these pictures, to me, is very picturesque, and they appear kind of like models in some of them. This was a bit of a simpler one, but I decided to paint it. I've been on a vintage vibe kick with watercolors. I've really been enjoying this Paul Ruben's 100% cotton hot pressed watercolor block sketchbook. I mentioned in a past video that I had intended to buy the loose leaf sketchbook page version, but I didn't realize the larger size that I was buying only came in a block format. And I'm actually very pleased with my mistake because I don't like stretching my paper ahead of time. So this saves me all the trouble. I love it. No wavy paper, no rumples in the end. And I could go wet on wet if I want, or I let it dry. And before I layer a new layer on top of my dried paint, that works really well too. So I've been practicing a lot of different ways to put shadows into faces or figures and create a believable light source in my watercolor paintings with this sketchbook. The paper just works so well. I bought it on Amazon. I haven't been able to find it anywhere else, actually, in the US. If you know of another art store that sells the Paul Ruben's watercolor sketchbooks and watercolor blocks, I'd be so interested. Just drop that in the comments, please, because, I mean, you know, Amazon, it's already doing just fine with its finances, so I don't think they need my money, but yeah, I still buy a couple things from them here and there throughout the year, just trying to limit it. So later on in this video, I create a palette, a little swatch palette to show the paints, the colors I used for this portrait, but I completely forget the blue for his shirt. It was not just indigo. It was like a Prussian blue. I think that's the one I used with, I think, some cobalt mixed in and left on from my palette. So it's a little indigo, a little cobalt, and mostly Prussian blue. So something I wanted to challenge myself to do with this particular portrait was use less colors from my painting palette. It's always been easy for me to just pull from whatever, I don't know, catches my eye in the moment. I have been kind of bad at pre-planning with, I'll use these 4 tones and maybe add this 5th tone and not stray from these and only mix with these. I've never been good at that. But using these older photos as a reference, I mean, the camera quality from the 1950s, it wasn't exactly a full spectrum, or I should say it wasn't a vibrant spectrum of colors that was captured in any of these. The particular photo I used has a lot of browns and some yellow ochre, a bit of a green tone, and honestly the blue is really subtle. The whole picture is subtle, which I like. I wanted to make the two figures pop out, so I painted them first, which is how I typically approach a watercolor piece. Wanted to give them definition, but I didn't feel like I needed really vibrant colors to give them that definition. The background I kept light, which you'll see later on. But yeah, I'm pleased with my progress with using a more limited selection, a smaller selection of colors. Now at this point, I try to force myself to slow down with the detail I had been adding to Grandpa Ralph because I liked the definition I achieved. I liked the colors. I liked how it looked a little faded, like he's standing far away and a lot of sunshine is hitting him, but not overworked. I've been working hard to try to not overwork my watercolor portraits. And at this point, I finish sketching out Adele. Isn't that a lovely name? Before Adele was cool and everyone was using it again about 5-6 years ago. She was named Adele. What I use here is an old General Pencil Company Kimberly from a friend. She surprised me with it about a year ago with a whole bunch of other pencils. So thank you so much, Katie. You're just the best. And it's a 6B pencil, super soft graphite. I love the softer pencils for sketching. I know that a lot of people don't when it comes to overlaying watercolor on top of your sketch because the softer graphites smudge more. But I also really love the look and feel of watercolor and pencil marks together. It's always been a favorite type of illustration for me. I know most illustrators, all types, children's book illustrators, portrait artists, food illustrators, they will use like a 2H or even just an H or an F. The harder graphites, the firmer ones, and I know those ones are stronger when it comes to sharpening your pencils. There's less breakage and they're much easier to pull up with an eraser if you want to change what you did And then you can overlay watercolor on top of those light graphite sketches really well without anything smudging, no strange bleeding or mixing into a gray, muddied color when your brush goes over those marks. I think I mentioned in my last video, I leave a lot of my pencil on the paper. I don't lift it off with an eraser before I go in with the paint. Sometimes I do on the faces, especially on a young face or a woman's face. I don't want those pencil marks to bleed into the skin tones because it tends to look like wrinkles when that happens. It almost ages the face that I was painting, at least the way I've been doing it. That seems to be the effect I get. So I'll use a kneaded eraser to lift the graphite back off of the face and sometimes the hair before I lay watercolor onto those parts. Hair, it's just, I want to get as many tones in as I can to make it look like hairs, not just a block of hair on a head. So the more colors I'm able to lay in, dark to light tones with the paint color I choose for the hair, it's easier with less pencil underneath. Now, at this point in my filming, I make the hilarious mistake of turning my phone. I don't even remember what happened, but I thought I was holding it the right way. I took it off the stand I have and held it in my hand to get a little closer so I could show you guys the detail, because this is a tiny portrait. It's only about 4.5 by 4.5 inches, and I didn't want to add too much detail, but I wanted the camera to pick up the up-close parts. And in this part, I'm just adding more of that mix, the skin tone mix I made. I talk about it in my last video, a really great flesh tone for almost all skin types to layer on and show shadow. It really does work for all skin types. It's mostly rose madder. Sometimes I forget. You can also get it with a quinacridone rose. I have that color in the Mijello set, and I mix it with a little bit of the greenish yellow. It's amazing. I've seen other illustrators use the Daniel Smith green gold, really any green gold paint mixed with those permanent rose colors, and then a little bit of a yellow tone. Depends on what yellows you feel most comfortable with the faces and portraits you paint, but something about those three colors mixed together, that's it right there. Nope, never mind, that's my raw umber. I used a lot of raw umber, but those three colors, a green gold, quinacridone rose or rose madder, and then a yellow tone. Then, psych, I made another. I painted one more picture this morning, Tuesday morning, but I wasn't very good with camera and I didn't get good footage of it, good enough for this vlog. So if you want to catch snippets of this portrait on the right, head to my Instagram or TikTok and find the reel. Thanks so much for joining, guys. Bye-bye.